So Sonia, let's start from the beginning. Okay, you're working at Nike, one of the best brands in the world. It's actually the only shoe, I didn't tell you this backstage, this is the only company I wear.
Oh,
I
wow.
actually don't own anything but Nikes. That's not a plug for them, it's
Wow.
true. I don't own anything but Nikes. So, you're working for my favorite brand. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so I started working at Nike probably 5 years into my career, and I got recruited there. And one of the things that I learned, it's not necessarily who you know, but who knows you, right? We talk about that all the time. So I ended up getting recruited by several different people. And when I got in, I was kind of sold in on you're going to have this autonomy. You're going to be able to. I ran Nike basketball, social digitals, for those that may or not know. But hey, you're going to have autonomy. You're going to have to, you're going to run your own thing, et cetera, et cetera. And I quickly found that, I needed to learn a lot more about working in a much bigger corporate environment, than I did previously. So prior to that, I worked for the Los Angeles Clippers, and even though the Los Angeles Clippers are an amazing, incredible organization to work for, I had direct line to the VP of marketing. I was his right-hand person. Things were super easy. At Nike, it was significantly more difficult in terms of getting things done, getting buy-in, creating those relationships, et cetera. But one of the things I can say about working at Nike is that it basically gave me an MBA in marketing. Like, I would not be doing a fraction of the things that I'm doing today if it wasn't for my time at Nike and all the things I learned there.
So when you switched from internal to becoming consultant for them, what really changed?
So I think the biggest thing, there's several things that changed, but one of the biggest things was, and we talked about this a little bit backstage, is it's our job to make our clients look good, right? That is our number one objective initiative. When you're working internally at a company, there's a lot more, I hate to say this, but politics. There's a lot more, you have to please many different people. When you go on the other side of it, it's your job to make the person you're working for and with look amazing, look great. That was a huge thing. Outside of that, from a initiative productivity standpoint, the other thing that really stood out is you no longer have somebody telling you you have to clock in at 9. And Nike was a flexible environment. So, but no, you no longer have somebody telling you you have to clock in at 9 and you're done at X, Y, and Z time. And you have nobody telling you exactly what that next thing that you have to do is. It's all up to you. So you have to pretty much come in every single day knowing and being motivated, being excited to get up, saying like, I have to be in front of my computer at 9 a.m. There's no one making you be in front of your computer at 9 a.m. Now you have to because you're working for yourself. And that's a huge difference. In the corporate environment, you got people telling you what to do. Now you got to tell other people what to do and how to do it.
So why do you think that large corporations often hire agencies like ours? Like, we're an agency for Oracle and BET and large-scale brands. You've got household name brands left and right.
Yeah.
Why do you think that large corporations that have hundreds of employees, thousands of employees, hire outside agencies?
I think there's two different reasons. There's several different reasons, but two different reasons. One is one, again, that we spoke about earlier. People should hire agencies because they're experts in their field. We should have an expertise in an area, and clients should hire us and pay a premium for that. That's the first reason. I think the second reason people hire agencies is because agencies deliver. They're paid to deliver. You give an agency a due date, you have to hit that due date. Internally, even with my own team, things slide. People are easier on people internally. But I think as agencies, you are paid to, actually there's a third reason too that I did not mention. A third reason is you're paid to think outside of the box, right? So, we've seen, and I'm not gonna mention brands, but we've seen brands that have their own internal agencies that have made huge mess ups in terms of cultural, right? Cultural issues. When you have an agency, it's the agency's job to tell you, hey, that's gonna look really bad, right? That might not work. So it's our job to see what you don't see because we don't have the group think that they do internally.
So I have a sentence for that. It's called, you can't see the picture when you're inside of the frame.
Oh, it's so true.
So
It's true for our businesses too. Didn't you feel that way sometimes about your own business? I feel like sometimes I need somebody else to tell me.
Absolutely. So when you watch certain companies scale quickly, how do you see things breaking or what they need to do to fix or prepare themselves? So let's say ClickUp, it went from 100 employees to 800 employees in a year. That's not even a year, it's like 9 months. It's wild to go hire 700 new people so fast. Like when you're watching companies out there scaling, what are the things that they could avoid or pitfalls that they could avoid as they scale their companies?
Yeah. Again, I think you'll find me talk a lot about this. I'm very people-oriented, always put people first. People are at the center of our campaigns. We tell people stories. So I think the kind of people you hire is really important. It's the most essential thing, right? If you don't have good people working for you, it's really hard to get great things done. And one of the things I look for in people are, oddly enough, I realized recently, is kindness. So I look for a lot of really productive, really smart, like that's the baseline, right? But when I say kindness, I look for people who are willing to take that extra step, that extra leap for their teammates. The person who's not gonna let me work till midnight, the person who's gonna say, hey, Sonia, let me take these 10 things off your plate or this thing off your plate, and people who wanna work as a team. That's first thing. And then the second thing that I realized from my business coach that I wasn't the best at was setting up systems and processes. So we called them SOPs. And it's something that I was actually quite resistant to because again, going back to the people approach, I really thought, hey, you hire smart people, they're gonna figure out how to get stuff done. But sometimes there's a way that we all need to do things together in order to accomplish the goal together.
So oftentimes when I speak with entrepreneurs that I'm investing into, I recommend that they get a business coach. But a lot of times ego gets in the way. What would you say to someone to help them take back and realize that maybe I do need a business coach or a mentor?
Well, let me take one step back. I think another thing that's super duper important is self-awareness. So knowing what you don't know is just as important as knowing is what you do know, right? So thinking that you know everything and you know how to do everything is just a sure way to get yourself in trouble pretty quickly, right? So I went to this great course, Landmark. People can say what they want about it, but they had this great diagram. And they showed, like, here are all the things in the world. And then they took a little sliver, and they said, here are all the things you know. And then they took, like, a little bit of a bigger sliver than that, and they said, here are all the things that you know that you don't know. And then he's like, here are all the things that you don't even know that you don't know. Like, you don't even know those things exist, so how can you know them, right? Like, you don't know Chinese, but you don't know something about your business that you might potentially need to know. So I think when it comes to, sorry, I'm gonna let that pass. I think when it comes to hiring a business coach, you need to go into it understanding that there is not a way in the world for you to know all those things. And that somebody needs to help coach you as well. And it's just like exercising. You have to get your reps in, right? You have to have time with somebody that knows what's kind of coming around the corner. And even from a mental perspective, I think my coach talked to me a lot about like how I think about my business that I wasn't even aware of.
So you mentioned something earlier called SOP. Can you talk us through what is an SOP?
SOP is basically standard operating procedure. So it could be in a productivity tracker, it could be in a one-pager, but it's just a way you do things. So you both work in social media. It could be literally how to post on Instagram. It could literally be like, you wouldn't say things like open up Instagram, but you might say, for example, we use a test account. Set up a new client, make sure you set up a test account. How would somebody know that if there wasn't in a standard operating procedure? That's not something that you just come into a company knowing. Even to the point of how fast you might need to respond to a client email. Try to respond within X amount of hours, right? That could be in a standard operating procedure. But I think what was important when my coach coached me on this was that I didn't write those SOPs, my assistant did. So I was supposed to download on her, my assistant wrote them, then we put them into practice, then we revisited them, And then we did that back and forth. And once a year, we revisit them just to make sure that they're still up to date and there's nothing new. And when a new person comes in, instead of us sitting down, training them through everything, we can send them an SOP and they know exactly what to do.
So for teams, we're bombarded by communication platforms and so many different ways to get a hold of us and get a hold of the people we work with. There's all the different social media accounts, there's email, text, WhatsApp, et cetera. Why are companies like ClickUp so important to have one main place? Like, why is that needed in a team setting?
I think having one source of truth is the most important, because then everybody knows where to find the thing that they're looking for, right? So,
One source of truth, I just like that.
Huh?
I like that, one source of truth.
One source of truth. So somebody comes to me, or so I go to somebody on my team and I say, hey, Liza, I really need to get you to get this thing done, I don't have time, I gotta be on stage, blah, blah, blah. She knows to go to a place like ClickUp and see what she needs to do. Otherwise, she's searching email, she's searching WhatsApp, text messages, she's trying to figure out where to find these files, but otherwise she can just go to that one source of truth.
So you mentioned something backstage called small but mighty. Can you explain what that means from a team perspective?
Yeah. So our clients call us small but mighty. We're quite a small team. We're less than 15, and we'll work from anywhere from 8 to 10 projects at a time. And when I say 8 to 10 projects, I'm talking about huge projects, like ginormous companies. But we do it at a level that a much larger agency would do it. Because we are so thoughtful about everything we do, about every detail, about the storytelling that goes into it. And I think really that all starts with having a solid strategy. And all strategy is, people throw strategy around, it's a plan. That's it, strategy is a plan. It's a way of thinking, a way of going about things. And so we have this really much tighter team. We contract out a lot of freelancers. And the reason we do that is because our core team knows exactly how to do the day-to-day, and they know exactly how to, I wouldn't call it farm out, I would call it brief out work to very specific people. So if we have a mom and baby client, we might have a mom writer, copywriter. If we have a sports client, I might find somebody who's super into Major League Baseball, who wants to write on MLB. It just enables us to do many things and be flexible, because my core team knows how to run a process and an offense.
So we have tens of thousands of entrepreneurs and employees and staff and people that are trying to work with different companies, whether it's internal or bringing on clients, that are watching us live right now. Mm-hmm. What would you say to them to protect themselves from bad clients or bad people that they're going to come into their life?
I read this quote the other day on my friend's Instagram profile and said, when you hold on to something so tightly, you can neither give nor receive. And it really struck home for me. And I realized how many times I've held on to clients that weren't right fit for us because I was just trying to make things work and making sure that they are happy, which might have been taking an exorbitant amount of time from our day-to-day life, which also means that we might have missed opportunities that we would have otherwise had. So I think when you're going into a relationship with any client, you gotta lay all your cards on the table. You gotta tell them exactly who you are. You don't wanna do a bait and switch. Hey, I'm gonna tell you right now, we're brutally honest. We're very direct. That doesn't work for every client, and that is okay. We're not for every client. I'm okay with that. But there are clients who want and love that, and they're excited by that. They're looking for somebody to tell them what they may or may not know. And so I think when you're going into any relationship, personal one, client one, no bait and switch. Be upfront. And if the relationship is not going the way that you thought it should, maybe it's not the right relationship for you. And I think, again, personal experience, I've tried to hold on, not to say that you shouldn't try to patch things up, that you shouldn't see your own blind spots, because sometimes you have your own blind spots as well. Maybe the way you deliver feedback back isn't right? Those kind of things. So Not that you can't grow, but I do think it's important to be upfront about who you are and what you do.
So we have this thing called under-promising and over-delivering. People have heard this for years. I'll give a quick example. So let's say you wanted me to make T-shirts for you. You're like, hey, Dan, will you print me a bunch of blue shirts? And I say, great. I'm going to have it done for you by next Friday. Okay? Next Friday is going to be 11 days from now. If I get it back to you 9 days from now, on next Wednesday, what are you going to do? You're going to refer me to all your friends. You're going to love me forever. You're going to rehire me, right?
Yes.
What if I got it back to you 14 or 15 or 16 days from now, and I'm 4 or 5 days late? You're going to hate me. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to probably tell more people not to work with me because I was super, super late. And so all of our clients, every single company, everything that we do, I always tell everyone, under-promise and over-deliver. You're still going to get the client. And too often people go in, they're like, I'm going to make you all 100 shirts for this price point. It's going to be done super, super fast. And then it happens to be late, and then they never get them again. And so from the under-promising and over-delivering concept, how do you explain to your staff to not tell the clients, oh yeah, we can get it done for you by 5 p.m. today, when it's actually going to take 3 or 4 days from now?
Yeah, you know, it's so interesting you say that because it's actually something we struggle with. We always want to please and go above and beyond. Similar reasoning. You want to go above and beyond, but then it doesn't matter how much you went above and beyond if it comes a day late, right? So I think it's really important I'm going to take this into the contract phase, right? And then talk about like setting up the proper relationship on the upfront. But as you know, we have something called scopes of work, right? When we go into a client. So to your point about under-promising, over-delivering, we always go into these scopes of work with knowing what we're going to do at the bare minimum, but knowing we're always going to deliver more than that. But one thing that I always tell my team is that, and it's actually in our culture book, is that our clients pay us to solve problems from them. We don't give up when obstacles are presented. So that's our version of like under-promising, over-delivering. We don't just say no, we say, hey, let us think about it and let us get back to you. And the other part of it that I think is really important, we're a highly collaborative team. So, and it's not something that a lot of people, I had somebody from another agency sit in our chats, and they were like, it's amazing how much you guys collaborate. So we're a highly collaborative team, which also somewhat helps with that idea of, hey, when are we going to deliver? What are we going to deliver? And what's actually realistic?
So how do you get your teams to interact calmly and comfortably with other people's teams when sometimes there can be friction? So let's say whether it's a client, partnerships, or you're trying to book a venue, or you're trying to hire teams, how do you get your team to be Switzerland? How do you get them to be peaceful with the others?
So one of the things that I go back to this idea of like hiring kind people, making sure that the person on the other side like is empathetic to whoever's needs is on the other side of the phone. And I think that's something that is typically innate in people, but also can be learned over time, just to think of others in every decision that you make. So as an example, I try to, even when it comes to vendors, if we're hiring vendors, look for people who are willing to work hard, will go above and beyond, and then I try to keep those people on the journey with us. So I try to hire the same people over and over again. Yeah. And the reason for that is trust. At the end of the day, trust, right? So, but sometimes when there's tension, I think, going back to what you said earlier, I think it's important to not just do what you said you were going to do, but to over-deliver as well on the client side, to show them that you're trying, to show them that you're hearing them.
So from a company culture perspective, as companies scale, they can lose their voice or they can lose their culture. You guys are small but mighty. Mm-hmm. How do you make the team not want to leave? So other companies try to come in and poach them, because right now, so many companies are struggling to find good talent. And so they're going out and poaching and hiring recruiters and headhunters to go get other employees. How do you incentivize them to leave outside of just money?
So this is actually a great question, because I typically don't have people leave me for other companies. I have people leave me to start their own thing, which is crazy that happens so much. So I must just hire people who are very entrepreneurial in spirit. But the way that so I have no problem hiring. And the reason I don't is because my company is built around purpose. And I, mentioned this earlier before we chatted, but we're really big on helping change the world for the better. And the way we do that is through advertising. So the way I look at it is I have companies like Nike, like Facebook, Cliff Bar and Luna Bar. I have all these companies who come to us because our objective is to tell stories that propel people and our culture forward. And because of that, I have more people coming into me wanting to work for us because everything we work on is so meaningful. I mean, I was telling somebody, and it's so fun and it's so exciting. I was telling Alan yesterday, had the craziest day. There's a really great chance we're working on this Willow brand campaign, which is a breast pump for moms. We got one of my favorite comedians to be in the spot. And there's a small chance we might get the cinematographer from Game of Thrones to be the DP, right? If you love film, that's pretty freaking exciting to be around, right? To see that. And at the end of the day, we get to tell this story about how the village, the world doesn't support moms, but in a funny, pithy way, in a creative way. Same thing, when we work with other people, I work with another company where we elevate Black and Latinx small businesses, and I get to pass the mic to people to tell their stories. We get to work with women athletes, LGBTQIA, we did Nike Pride. So we get to tell these great, big, beautiful stories, and people are really excited to be a part of that. So I think if you root your company in a mission and provide a clear vision, people are going to want to stay. It's not about money. It's not about perks. It's about feeling fulfillment every single day you wake up and you go to work. And it's about being challenged, making sure that they're challenged.
So you said your company and your clients and the campaigns you have purpose to it. So for the tens of thousands of people that are out there watching, how can they figure out for themselves what their purpose is if they don't know right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm a huge fan of Simon Sinek, and his start with why. So I think it's really thinking about sitting down and thinking about and writing down all the things that set you on fire, right? And then all the things that in the last year you hated doing, right? And listen, every job in the world is going to have things you don't like doing. And I'm not just talking about jobs. I'm talking about everything. All the things that set you on fire. Hey, these were my best moments in the last year, in the last 5 years. And these are all the worst things or things I would like to be doing less of in the future. And then you can start to articulate some sort of a framework for what might be something that inspires you. I'll tell you right now, big part of the reason I left Nike, I was working on Nike basketball. I was working with LeBron, Kobe, Kyrie, KD. I was going to China. I was in Europe. I couldn't believe, some of the experience I got to have. But I realized I was really passionate about women and, and women's progress in society, and I was working on men's sports. So instead of trying to prove that a woman can make it in a guy's world, why wasn't I creating something that empowered women? Which then led me to, well, why don't I create something that empowers people who have been left out of spaces and places? And that's kind of how I figured it out for myself. It took a lot of introspection and a lot of thinking, but it really started with, why am I doing this thing?
So right now we're at ClickUp, a productivity conference. We're actually going to end right on time to the penny. But please, for everyone out there watching virtually and in person, give a round of applause to Sonia.
Thank you.